There is one secret I carry that I have never spoken out loud, not to my lawyers, not to my pastor, not to the woman sleeping in my east wing right now. It is the reason I still own everything I own, and it is the reason most of you watching this will lose everything you have built before your body is cold. I will tell you that secret before this is over, but you are not ready for it yet. You have not bled enough to earn it. I am 80 years old. Last Monday, at exactly 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I pulled my sedan onto Collier Street, and I saw something that should have killed me. Clara Hayes, 79 years old, a woman who marched beside me when dogs and water hoses were the government's answer to our dignity, was standing on the sidewalk outside the house her father built with his own scarred hands in 1951. Her suitcases were thrown on the curb like garbage bags. The locks had already been changed. A 26-year-old boy she raised from diapers, her own grandson, had taken that house from under her feet and gambled it away on some digital fantasy he called a startup. She was not crying. That is what terrified me. She had gone past crying. She had that stillness in her eyes that I have only seen in women who have decided that the ground beneath them no longer belongs to this world. I got out of my car. I did not ask her what happened because I already knew. The system had completed its cycle. It found the crack in her armor, and the crack was love. I put Clara in my car. I told my security to collect every bag off that sidewalk, and I drove her to my home, the 3-acre estate in Atlanta that 4 generations of my bloodline poured their bones into, and I gave her the East Wing bedroom with the magnolia view. She did not say thank you. She just sat on the edge of the bed and stared at her hands like they had failed her. And maybe they had, because those hands signed a quitclaim deed without a single lawyer present, without a single question asked, because a boy she loved told her it would help with the taxes. That is the first of 5 fatal mistakes, and it is the one that swallows more black wealth in this country than any stock market crash, any recession, any act of Congress. You hand over the deed to your property because someone who shares your blood asks you to, and you think blood is a contract. Blood is not a contract. Blood is a fluid. It spills, it stains, and it washes off the hands of the person who took everything from you without a single bruise to show for it. Now, exactly 3 hours after I rescued Clara from that sidewalk, my own son walked through my front door. Marcus Williams, 52 years old, a man I carried for 9 months and fed from my own body, sat down in my oak library with a white man in a tailored suit and a 40-page document that smelled like embalming fluid. They called it an equity optimization proposal. I call it a death warrant wrapped in financial jargon. Marcus wanted me to sign a predatory reverse mortgage. He wanted me to add his name to every bank account I own. He wanted me to co-sign a high-risk commercial loan that would have strapped my estate to his sinking ship. He wanted me to liquidate my dividend funds, the ones that have been compounding since before he learned to walk, and convert them into cash he could touch. And the final request, the one that told me exactly who I was dealing with. He wanted me to revoke my blind trust. He wanted the fortress dismantled. He wanted the walls torn down. He wanted me naked in the financial wilderness, at 80 years old so he could pick my bones clean and still sleep at night telling himself he was helping his mother. But before I tell you how I destroyed that contract and every person attached to it, you need to understand the lie that has been planted so deep in our community that most of you will defend it even as it eats you alive. The lie is this: family will protect you. No, family will protect the idea of you as long as that idea is useful. The moment your usefulness shifts from provider to obstacle, you become a problem to be managed, relocated, or erased. I watched it happen to Clara. I watched a woman who survived the fire hoses of Birmingham get evicted by a boy who cannot spell the word equity without autocorrect. And I almost watched it happen to me, except I learned a long time ago that love without legal architecture is just a beautiful hallway with no locks on the doors. The man Marcus brought into my home was Carter Hughes, 40 years old, representing a firm that specializes in what they call senior living solutions. I have a different name for what they do. They are a gentrification machine designed specifically to extract high-value properties from elderly black homeowners using contracts so tangled that by the time you understand what you signed, you are already living in a state-subsidized facility, wondering where your garden went. Carter Hughes looked at me the way every institutional predator looks at an 80-year-old black woman in a historic neighborhood. He did not see a matriarch. He saw a market inefficiency. He saw a demographic anomaly sitting on 3 acres of prime Atlanta real estate that his clients wanted to turn into luxury condominiums. And he assumed, because the system taught him to assume, that I was too old, too tired, and too grateful for my son's attention to read the fine print. He offered to read the summary out loud for me, to spare my eyes, he said. I put on my acetate glasses. I took the document from his manicured hands, and I told both of them to shut their mouths until I finished reading every single page. It took me 47 minutes. I read it twice, and when I was done, I knew exactly what kind of war I was in. If you are still watching this and you think this story does not apply to you because your children love you, because your family is different, because your grandson would never do that, then you are already standing exactly where Clara stood 6 months ago. You are already inside the trap. You just have not heard it close yet. Here is what my family office found when they dissected that 40-page document over the next 24 hours. Buried in Clause 9, subsection D, in font so small you would need a jeweler's loupe to read it, was a transfer of title provision triggered by medical absence. If I were moved to any medical facility for more than 90 days, whether a hospital, a rehabilitation center, a nursing home, it did not matter. The full title of my property would automatically transfer to Carter Hughes's firm, not to Marcus, to the firm. Marcus was listed separately as a facilitating broker, entitled to a $500,000 commission for delivering his own mother to the slaughter. My son had put a price tag on me, $500,000. That is what 80 years of raising him, funding his education, bailing out his first business, and holding his hand through 2 divorces was worth to Marcus Williams. $500,000 and a clear conscience. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not call him on the phone to ask him why. Screaming is for people who have been surprised. I was not surprised. I was activated. Now listen carefully, because this is where most of you fail. When the betrayal hits, you crumble. You go to bed. You call your pastor. You cry into your pillow and ask God what you did to deserve this. And while you are on your knees, praying for understanding, the paperwork is still moving. The clock is still ticking. The lien is still being filed. Your tears do not pause the machinery of theft. The system does not care about your broken heart. It cares about signatures, deadlines, and your absence from the courtroom. So while you are grieving, they are winning. And that is the second fatal mistake. You let the emotional wound paralyze the strategic response. You treat betrayal as a personal crisis instead of what it actually is, a hostile financial acquisition that requires an immediate, cold-blooded counterattack. I gave myself exactly one evening to feel the weight of what my son had done. I sat in my garden at dusk. I let the grief move through my chest like a hot wire. And at exactly 9 o'clock, I locked it in a box inside my mind, and I went to war. Day 5. I summoned Marcus and Carter Hughes to my dining table. I placed the original contract in the center, and next to it I placed a dossier stamped by the FBI. You should have seen Carter's face when he realized that the old black woman he tried to rob had a federal file on his firm thicker than his proposal. Marcus attempted one of his rehearsed speeches about trust and family legacy. His voice cracked and died the moment I opened the dossier and read aloud the details of his imminent bankruptcy filing with the IRS. The frozen accounts, the delinquent taxes, and the exact dollar amount of the secret commission Carter had promised him. I did not raise my voice. I did not need to. Truth delivered at a whisper is louder than any scream. If you are done letting people use your love as a crowbar to pry open your life, type strength in the comments right now, because what I am about to teach you is the difference between dying with dignity and dying in a facility you did not choose, surrounded by strangers who do not know your name. The third fatal mistake is co-signing anything for anyone at any age, but especially after 60. When you co-sign a loan, you are not helping someone. You are handing them a loaded weapon and pointing it at your own credit, your own assets, your own future. Clara co-signed her grandson's business loan because he cried. Tears are the cheapest currency in the world, and they buy the most expensive things. Her grandson's tears bought her house. Your grandchild's tears will buy yours if you let them. The fourth fatal mistake is liquidating long-term investments for short-term cash. Marcus wanted me to sell dividend funds that have been compounding for 30 years. Those funds generate passive income that pays for my property taxes, my insurance, my staff, and my medical protocols without ever touching the principal. Selling them would be like burning the orchard to cook one meal. You eat tonight, you starve for the rest of your life. Every elder I have watched go bankrupt made the same calculation. They sold the future to solve the present, and the present consumed the money in months, while the future stretched out for decades with nothing in it. The fifth fatal mistake, and this is the one that seals the coffin, is revoking your irrevocable trust or failing to establish one in the first place. A properly structured trust is not a piece of paper. It is a fortress with walls so high that not even your own blood can climb over them without your explicit, documented, witnessed, and notarized permission. My blind trust is managed by 3 independent trustees, none of whom share my last name, none of whom have ever met Marcus, and all of whom are legally obligated to prioritize the preservation of my estate over any emotional appeal from any family member. Marcus wanted me to revoke that trust because it was the only thing standing between him and total access to my wealth. He called it rigid. He called it cold. He called it unnecessary. I call it the reason I am speaking to you from my own home right now, instead of from a rented room in a facility that smells like bleach and resignation. Here is what I did to Carter Hughes and every predator like him. My attorneys filed a federal class action lawsuit under the Fair Housing Act, using the attempted fraud against me and the completed fraud against Clara as twin pillars of evidence demonstrating a pattern of reverse redlining and elder financial exploitation targeting black homeowners. That lawsuit froze Carter's firm's operations across the entire state of Georgia within 72 hours. His corner office with the mahogany desk and the skyline view is now a crime scene. Here is what I did for Clara. I used my Delaware LLC to purchase her foreclosed mortgage debt at auction in cash before any developer could touch it. I returned the keys to her historic home, not as charity, because charity can be revoked, but through a lifetime protective trust that ensures her parasitic grandson can never set foot on that property again as long as she breathes. Clara is sleeping in her own bed tonight because I understand something most of you refuse to learn. Protecting your people is not about being generous. It is about being architectural. You do not save someone by giving them money. You save them by building a legal structure around them that no predator can penetrate. And here is what I did to Marcus. I applied the maximum punishment that a matriarch can deliver within the framework of capitalism and family law. Surgical disinheritance. I removed his name from my will and redirected his entire inheritance, every cent of it, into the Arthur and Ruth Williams Foundation for legal defense against elder real estate fraud. My son will not receive $1 from my estate, not because I hate him, because I love the next generation of elderly black women more than I love his comfort. Every dollar he thought was coming to him will now fund lawyers who protect people like Clara from people like him. He will watch my wealth serve justice for the rest of his life, and he will know that he did this to himself. The stress of that week would have killed most people my age. Consecutive exposure to the trauma of watching your closest friend evicted and discovering your own child's betrayal creates a cortisol storm that shreds the vascular lining and triggers strokes in people who are not prepared. I am prepared. I have been preparing my body for war since I was 50. My hyperbaric oxygen sessions rebuild the microvascular tissue in my brain faster than stress can damage it. The sulforaphane I extract from broccoli sprouts grown in my own winter garden activates the NRF2 pathway in my DNA, the master antioxidant switch that neutralizes every free radical that betrayal and grief release into my bloodstream. My brain-derived neurotrophic factor stays at levels that most 40-year-olds cannot achieve because I fast with precision and I train with iron 3 times a week. While Marcus is losing his hair from anxiety and drowning his shame in cheap liquor, I am rebuilding my neural architecture every single night. I am not an 80-year-old woman waiting to die. I am a biological and legal fortress that processes predators like waste material. Now, the secret. I promised you I would tell it, and unlike the people in your life who make promises to control you, I keep mine. The secret that has protected me for 40 years is this. I have never once in my adult life made a financial decision while sitting in the same room as the person who benefits from that decision. Never. Not once. Not for Marcus, not for my late husband, not for anyone. Every contract, every signature, every transfer, every amendment to my trust has been reviewed in a room where the only people present are me and professionals who are paid to protect me, not to love me. Love and financial counsel must never occupy the same room. The moment someone who stands to gain from your signature is sitting across from you while you hold the pen, you are compromised. Your judgment is compromised. Your objectivity is compromised. Your future is compromised. Clara signed that deed with her grandson standing right there, smiling, holding her hand. That hand was not holding hers for support. It was guiding the pen. Separation of emotion and execution. That is the master key. That is what keeps the roof over your head and the deed in your name and the power in your hands until you decide on your own terms, in your own time, in your own sound mind, what happens to everything you built. You are watching this because something in your gut told you that the people around you are circling. Trust that instinct. It is older than language. It is the same instinct that told your grandmother to hide cash in the walls, that told your great-aunt to bury gold in the yard, that told every black woman before you that the world was not built to protect her wealth, so she had to become the architect of her own fortress. Stop being grateful that people show up. Start asking why they showed up. Stop confusing presence with loyalty. Start demanding proof of intention. And for the sake of everything your ancestors bled to leave you, stop signing documents in rooms full of people who love you, because love with access and no oversight is the most sophisticated weapon ever aimed at your estate. I am 80. I have buried friends who were smarter than me, but softer than me. I have watched women with more money than I will ever see lose it all because they believed the fairy tale that family is a fortress. Family is not a fortress. Family is a group of people who know where you keep your keys. Whether they protect those keys or use them to rob you depends entirely on the architecture you build around yourself while you still have the power to build it. If you wait until you need protection, it is already too late. The walls go up while you are strong, or they never go up at all. Now close this screen, call an elder law attorney who has no connection to anyone in your family, and start building. The wolves are not coming. They are already inside your house, and they are smiling at you over dinner.